Alright, in this chapter we're going to be looking at polymer chemistry, and to start with I'm going to talk about what are polymers. So here's a definition. Polymers are long chains of repeating smaller molecules called monomers that are covalently bonded together. So that kind of bonding is different than metallic bonding or the kind of bonding that you'd see in salts. So they're covalently bonded just like small molecules are, and you have these series of them together. And then another important term is polymerization, and polymerization really is just any reaction that forms a polymer from monomers. So let's look at an organic example next. So here we're going to start with the molecule styrene, and then we're going to form through a reaction, which is going to be the polymerization reaction, a polymer from it. And so the polymer is going to have repeating styrene units in it, like this. So those are the repeating styrene units, and if you want to see one styrene, you can look right here. So this is the six-membered ring that we have here, followed by two carbons off to the side. So here's our six-membered ring, and here are the two carbons off to the side. Again, here's a six-membered ring, and here are the two carbons off to the side. Now we also add these brackets here that you can see at the edges, and what those brackets, it's kind of a squiggly line bracket, what that says is that this continues past this. So I only showed 1, 2, 3, 4 units of the polymer, but the idea is that there could be thousands of these units making up one chain of the polymer. So polymers can be formed from hundreds or even thousands of monomer units. Now, polystyrene is one of the most used really chemicals on the planet because it's used in things like plastic cups, CD cases, or DVD cases, and most famously in styrofoam. And it degrades pretty slowly, so some people are not very fond of polystyrene and using it a lot because it doesn't biodegrade very easily. As we look at types of polymers, we'll start with some synthetic polymers. And among the different synthetic polymers, we have common things like plastics, rubber and silicone types of things, and then actually fibers in a lot of clothing. So either clothing is made up of natural things like cotton, or much of clothing is made up of polymer fibers. All right, then we have the natural polymers. There's several really common ones. Polypeptides are very common. The monomer of a polypeptide is an amino acid. We'll look at all these a little bit and structures of some of these things, what they look like. But the monomer is an amino acid, and an example of polypeptides are things like proteins. Then you have polysaccharides. Polysaccharides, the monomers are just sugars, or monosaccharides, and there's a lot of examples of those, things like cellulose, starch, glycogen. Those are all examples of polysaccharides that you might be familiar with from biology already, or if not, we'll talk about them a little bit more in organic chemistry, and as you get into more biology classes, you'll talk more about those as well. And then nucleic acids, where the monomers are nucleotides, and the examples are DNA and RNA. Now these structures are a lot more complex, but nucleic acids are really each built only off of 4 different groups, whereas polypeptides are built off of 20 different groups repeating in different patterns. So you'll see a little bit of how those all work together. All right, and this will be the last sort of background section before we start getting into reactions and how polymers are formed. But if we're going to classify polymers, we have things that are homopolymers, which are made from just one type of monomer. An example of that, the one that we already saw, is like polystyrene, where it's just styrene repeating over and over. And that's different from copolymers, which are made from 2 or more different monomer units. An example of that would be something like nylon. Nylon is made up of 2 different monomers, but also proteins, which I talked about before, that are made up of 20 different amino acid groups, or things like DNA and RNA, which are made up of 4 different groups. So all of those are copolymers because they're not made up of all the same one repeating unit. And the last piece that we'll talk about in this section are the most common polymerization methods, or polymerization. And we'll start with addition polymers. So addition polymers are monomers that bond to one another without loss of atoms. If you go back to the styrene one, and we'll look at those examples again in just a minute, you'll notice that in styrene there are no loss of atoms. The second type are condensation polymers, and here we usually have two different types of monomers that will combine, and that will have loss of some kind of a small molecule. Most commonly it's going to be water that's lost when we do a condensation polymerization. So in the next video we're going to start looking at a couple of the reactions and see what happens in addition polymerization.